Animal rights are a spiritual value. The heart of a tzaddik, or righteous person, is filled with a great love for all creatures, the righteous and the wicked, Jews and non-Jews, and even toward all animals. God has compassion for all his creatures. There is a highly moral part of human evolution that exists in our generation due to the present culture. To be sure, it exists only as a utopian dream in the most extreme idealists. Nevertheless, it is a natural moral desire of righteous sensitivity to be concerned for the justice of animals in all its implications. We are told that the holy Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi was punished with a sickness because he told a calf being led to slaughter that had tried to hide beneath his garments, "Go, for this is what you are created for." He was only healed after an incident in which he demonstrated compassion for a group of weasels. Bava Metzia 85a. Surely it is impossible to imagine that the master of all beings, who has compassion on his creatures, Tehillim 145 verse 9, would create an internal law within his creation, which is called very good, Bereshis 1 verse 31, that makes it impossible for humankind to survive without distorting its moral sensitivity by murdering animals. Man's original diet was vegetarian. There is no doubt for any sophisticated and logical thinker that the statements, "and you will control the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the animals on earth, and all living insects that crawl on the ground," Genesis 1 verse 26, does not imply a type of cruel tyranny that oppresses creatures in order to obtain selfish desires. God forbid that a cruel, eternal law of slavery should be sealed in God's world, who is good to all and compassionate on all of his creations, Psalms 145 verse 9, and who declared, "The world shall be built upon kindness," Psalms 89 verse 3. In fact, the Torah has already testified that in the past, humankind did possess this highly moral trait, as Chazal explain, Sanhedrin 59b, Adam Harishon was not permitted to eat meat. "I have given you every tree yielding seed for food," Genesis 1 verse 29. Only after the children of Noah survived the flood was meat permitted to them. "Every living, moving thing will be yours to eat. Like the vegetation, I have given you everything," Genesis 9 verse 3. Can we possibly imagine that we have forever lost that highly moral sensitivity that was once our inheritance? In response to such matters it is written, "I will bring wisdom from afar, and I will ascribe righteousness to my Creator," Job 36:3. Eating meat is a compromise. While the Torah speaks of eating meat, it explains, "And when you crave meat and say, 'I desire some meat,' then you may eat as much of it as you want," Deuteronomy 12 verse 20. In this pasuk, there is a subtle hint of criticism and call for restraint. In other words, you may eat meat as long as your inner sensitivity is not disgusted by eating the flesh of an animal, as you are already disgusted by eating the flesh of people. For the latter, the Torah does not need to write an explicit prohibition. One does not need to be warned about that which is already ingrained in one as a natural truth. However, when the time does arrive, when the inner moral sense of humankind precludes the eating of animals, then there will be no desire to eat meat, and thus we will not eat it, as it is written. In a general statement of no, a yes can be found, and in a general statement of yes, a no. Sifri Devorim 11. The Torah trains us in animal sensitivity. In order to prepare humankind for the ethical goals of the end of days, mitzvot involved with eating meat were instructed in a specific way. As the prophet Yeshayahu says, all of your children will be taught by God, and great will be their peace. In righteousness you will be established. Be far from cruelty, and you will have nothing to fear. Yeshayahu 54 verses 13 to 14. You will have nothing to fear because of the great distance from cruelty. This is not only talking about cruelty towards man, but cruelty towards all living creatures. Covering the blood. Kisui Hadam. If any one of the children of Israel, or a convert who joins them, traps an animal or bird that may be eaten and spills its blood, he must cover the blood with earth. Vayikra 17 verse 13. The commandment to cover the blood of an animal or bird is a godly protest against the compromise that is given to the damaged soul. For the inclination of man is bad from his youth. Genesis 8 verse 21. It is with regard to the damaged soul that the Torah says, "And when you crave meat and say, 'I desire some meat,' then you may eat as much of it as you want." Deuteronomy 12 verse 20. Concerning this person who shows no sign of any moral or righteous opposition to eating animals, the Torah says, "You are commanded to cover the blood." Deuteronomy 12 verse 16. Hide your embarrassment and weak morality. Even while one has not yet arrived at the appropriate moral level that would change one's practical lifestyle, even before reaching the height of piety, at which one would understand and deeply feel that it is not correct to take the life of an animal just to fulfill one's lusts, the mitzvot are preparing and training a person's moral sensitivity. Ultimately, humanity will actualize this ethical potential in its correct time. Shechita, ethical slaughter. Therefore, the very act of slaughtering needs to be sanctified with a special prayer. It must be done as carefully as possible, in a way that minimizes pain to the animal, in order to help a person internalize that one is not dealing with an object, some moving machine. Rather, this is a living and feeling creature, and the person needs to be sensitive to its feelings and emotions. One even needs to be aware of the feelings of this animal's family and the compassion it has on its offspring. This is the reason behind the prohibitions of killing an animal and its offspring on the same day, and killing an animal that is very young, as well as the commandment of chasing away a mother bird before taking its eggs. The godly wisdom behind the mitzvot is that they will bring with them a greater enlightenment in its appropriate time. Animal sacrifices, korbanot. In a quiet, subtle voice, Melachim 19:12, the Kabbalists said, in future, animals will be on the level that human beings are on now through an elevation of worlds. Sha'ah ha-mitzvot la'arizal. Yet, as long as the ethical level of humankind has not been perfected, in that humankind does not even lift its head to be sensitive to animal rights, and as long as humankind still seeks to eat meat and to slaughter animals for its own satisfaction, even though this is negative and undignified, then, for the time being, sacrifices can be used for an elevated function. Sacrifices help cultivate a feeling of gratitude to the source of good, God. But in the future, humankind's ethical sensitivity will ascend to such a level that positive laws will be given for the treatment of animals. In relation to this ideal level of ethical culture, the rabbi said a great and wondrous thing. In the future, all of the sacrifices will be nullified. Midrash Tanchuma, Emor 19. In addition, the Torah, when speaking about the end of days, says, "And the offering, mincha, of Yehuda and Yerushalayim will be sweet to God." Malachi 3 verse 4. The pasuk goes out of its way to emphasize the word mincha, which refers to a bread offering, instead of kurban, which refers to an animal offering. The ideal vegetarian diet. At the end of days, there will be an inner thirst within humankind to do acts of righteousness. One will desire to pour out a spirit of kindness onto others, but none who need it will be found. Humanity will already be living a life of true happiness and success physically, ethically, and intellectually. At that time, humankind will turn to its lower brothers, the mute and downtrodden animals. Mankind will use its treasure of wisdom and experience to help teach and improve animals according to their abilities in physical, intellectual, ethical, and spiritual realms. In our current era, which is filled with degradation and darkness, we cannot even imagine what this level of existence will look like. Animals will take on a new form, and the world will have a new shape. If tzaddikim desire, they can create a world. Sanhedrin 65b. This is the wondrous image that the prophets envisioned in relation to the culture of animals. The wolf will live with the lamb, the leopard will lie down with the goat, the calf, lion, and the young together. A little child will lead them. The cow will feed with the bear, their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. The infant will play near the snake's den, and the young child will put its hands into the snake's nest. They will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of God as the waters cover the sea. Yeshayahu 11 verses 6 through 9. Dangers of self-righteous vegetarianism. However, let it be known that if a full moral obligation were to exist between people and animals at a time when humankind was still severely deficient in moral perfection, it would cause much negativity. In fact, it would be a stumbling block for our moral development. Humanity has a natural moral yearning that demands to be expressed. It even knocks on the heart of evil people. These people also feel forced to quench their natural thirst for righteousness. This is why we sometimes find a cruel leader will focus on a specific ethical ideal, and even find joy in fulfilling certain virtuous acts. For in doing so, he appeases the morality that pulsates within him. If pious treatment of animals becomes a public norm, and desire within society before the correct time, it will bring with it many necessary evils. For example, we may encounter many cruel people who would hurt and slaughter human beings without mercy. When their moral conscience comes to overwhelm them with guilt, they will pacify it with their righteous behavior towards animals. Man's sophisticated ability to commit evil would find in this an opening to justify many terrible deeds. This would only strengthen the hands of cruel people. There is no end to the amount of confusion, negativity, pain, and injustice that would come about due to this prematurely becoming a social norm. Therefore, godly wisdom decided that in order to create a firm path to morality, it was necessary to temporarily disconnect humans from animals. This is in order to keep our focus on humanitarian morality, because only through this will it be possible to bring true happiness at the end of days, when humankind will arrive at an awareness of its relationship towards all its animal companions in creation. At that time, humankind will realize what pure morality looks like, and that it no longer requires any concessions, as it is written, "On that day I will make a covenant for them with the beasts of the fields, the birds in the sky, and the creatures that move along the ground. I will abolish bow, swords, and battle from the land." Hosea 2 verse 20. Ethical guidance during Shechita. A letter to Rabbi Dr. Binyamin Menashe Levin, a student of Rav Kook, a Talmud scholar, and an author of Otzar HaGeonim, December 31st, 1908. It goes against the pure emotions of a Talmud Chacham and a spiritual person to be constantly involved in slaughtering animals. Even though currently killing and eating animals is still necessary for the world, it is more fitting for the killing to be done by people who have not yet developed their emotional sensitivity. However, the ethical and wise ones should be overseers to make sure that the killing is not done in a barbaric way. The process of eating animals will then be accomplished in an elevated manner, so that in its proper time it will enlighten the world.